It's almost like your heart stops when you hear them calling. You get a little flutter where you just go, oh, they're here. You know, they're such a quiet cockatoo species compared to some of the other ones, so it feels like when they want to hang around and be in the area where you are, that's a really special thing. Like it's a little blessing from the world to actually get to work on glossy black cockatoos and to do something that helps them flourish and be amazing.
The Glossies in the Mist project is a conservation project for glossy black cockatoos in the Southern Highlands. It was originally started by the amazing Pat Hall as a small project for Bundanoon. When Bundanoon turned 100, they planted 100 Alocasuarina trees. And from that grassroots idea, the Glossies in the Mist project sort of was born. Female glossies have their own individual yellow feather pattern.
Garrawal is the Aboriginal name for glossy black cockatoo. We went out and collected the seed, we propagated, and we put a sign on the wall in the hole and said, next Saturday we're handing out the glossy black cockatoo feed trees. Come and get your tree. I got up there early, and when I arrived at the Memorial Hall, and it holds about 200 people, and I saw them outside the hall, up the pathway, up around the back of the building, and I didn't see beyond that because I lost sight of them. And I was thinking, I've just counted about 180, and we promised faithfully that we would do it again, come back in a couple of months, and we'll have more trees. And that's how it got started.
In the Southern Highlands, there's a vegetative wildlife corridor called the Great Western Wildlife Corridor, which spans from Moreton National Park in the south and Bungonia region all the way up through the Southern Highlands to the Blue Mountains National Park in the north. And this is a really important corridor because it already has vegetation in it, and also there's lots of great landholders along that corridor that are working really hard to protect that vegetation and increase it. There's different groups that do, specialise in the tree planting, that specialise in the identification of female glossies, that send in survey sightings from their families on their property as well. And so I really think the reach of the project has expanded so much because of how much community buy-in there has been.
That has been achieved. That goal of the Alocasuarina continues.
During those really large intense bushfires of Black Summer, we had lost a whole heap of the feed trees that are so important for glossy black cockatoo. So actually losing those animals out of the landscape post-fire was another trauma on top of many of the other traumas that the community was facing. The Feed the Birds part of the project is a planting arm, so what we're trying to do is to find ways to bring glossy blacks back into the landscape, particularly following the devastation of the landscape after fire.
Apparently, according to the fire people, they just said they just had to go back. It was so hot that they just couldn't do anything about it. They had to retreat. In 2022, Beth from the government's Saving Our Species program came to visit our Wingelow land. She began by talking about animal tucker, noting tiny plants regenerating, phossicked and found carnage under burgeoning growth, and said, "This is the worst land I've seen affected by the fires." The proposed project would replace what the fire eradicated, casuarinas for endangered glossy black cockatoos, and a variety of eucalypts for koalas.
This is one of the places where the landholder lost everything. We walked through the property with the landholder and her son. We walked through and they didn't realise the beautiful potential of the landscape to recover post-fire, and it was really lovely to be able to just go through and point out to them that everything wasn't lost. That's just come up amazingly since we did the planting even 2 years ago or whatever that was.
It was cold for November, only 11 degrees. I'd missed the planting, but as I walked to the ridge, I noticed them immediately running down the hill. Hundreds of cardboard cylinders with cut-out teardrop shapes, each cylinder held in place by blonde wooden stakes, as beautiful as an art installation and compostable. I looked into the guards and saw new trees growing. The life had already created a new habitat.
The atmosphere on these planting days is epic. It's heaps of fun. Everyone comes in raring to go. There's heaps of energy, heaps of excitement. a whole lot of different types of people and people from all sorts of backgrounds. We've had really high survivorship at all the sites that we've been planting at, up to 95 to 98% survivorship, which is really cool. So we've got a little aloe casuarina here that we planted in October last year, so it's coming up to a year and it's doing beautifully. It's so exciting when you've put all this hard work in with a whole group of people, done a massive day, put in 700 plants in one day, and to come back a year later and see this happening is just so exciting. Yeah, it's really cool.
Each morning I rush down the hill to check, straightening guards, hammering stakes, dribbling water from a watering can. Beth says the stats are good, most will survive. Standing among them I feel their presence, little hearts beating, green leaves looking up at me, I can hear them. Walking past a heap of burnt trees left by builders, Beth says, "You're not going to touch that, are you? It's a perfect habitat for a range of species." The fires taught me a thing or two. The forces underlying nature are both destructive and regenerative.
The whole idea behind the plantings was to encourage bird life, and then planted trees that would not only be like a food source for the birds, but also like a habitat, breeding areas, and then of course different types of trees that would also encourage other types of native wildlife, right? A secondary thing for us would be to encourage windbreaks and introduce more shade for the actual cattle. We sort of tried to pick corridors that would be good for the birds and the wildlife, and then also to help with our cows. I've learnt so much over the last 2 years, you know, like there's different trees for different things, you know, and we've worked together to work out, you know, how we're gonna fence off the areas.
I think it's really important that we acknowledge how fantastic the support we've had is from the landholders who offer their land for this work, and also from our partners. The Wingecarribee Bush Care Nursery has been fantastic, and of course the Menai Wildflower Nursery. We would never have been able to do this work without them.
The project's its own now, which is really nice. It's pretty much owned by lots of different parts of the community. So we have a sightings form so people can record their sightings of glossy black cockatoos, and we can put that information into Bionet to further protect the birds. Also, the Great Western Wildlife Corridor is across lots of different tenures. There's lots of different landholders involved, so not only do we need everyone to protect the habitat for glossies, but also to tell their mates over the fence about glossy black cockatoos.
It all just slotted into place, and so I think that's why it worked, because it was just the timing, right place at the right time, and a willing community. They're very big in volunteering here at Rundanoon. I just love the bird. They're just, I don't know, they're special. They just seem to fly up there and say, "Look at me, look at me, look at me." And they just on the fringe looking at everybody else. Yeah, I just love them. Love the colours, love the history of them, yeah.